Good evening and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how you can get the smoothest of gimbal shots. Let's go! As I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about how you can get the smallest of gimbal shots. Today I'm going to be filming on the R5 with my RS4 DJI. Very minimal gear. I've got a polarizing filter on there. I've got a 24mm lens, f1.4. No ND filter today because I'm using a polarizer. We've been through that before, I've mentioned it in other videos. I'm trying to get an ND filter that's also a polarizing filter. We'll see what happens. I'll do a review if I manage to get hold of one. I've seen a couple, but I don't want to spend 120, 130 quid on a filter that's going to be trash, shall we say. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can get the smoothest of gimbal shots. Like I said, I've gone full minimal gear, no microphone, no nothing apart from the polarizing filter. This is just about the practical techniques, and then we're going to go back to the studio when I edit it in a few days once I've finished work and I'm back home on the weekends. And then we're going to go into the studio. I'm going to bring it into DaVinci Resolve, and I'm going to teach you two main ways of stabilizing the footage. One, really easy, no technical ability whatsoever. You just press stabilisation. And number two, you bring it in and go into the Fusion tab, add a good old plantar, however you pronounce it, tracker, and yeah, good to go. The observant amongst you would have realized I have a new top. I've got an initial D. Let's see, it might not track me on the Osmo, but yeah, got an initial D hoodie. I think it looks sick, and somehow I've managed to pick an evening where I've got beautiful light, so I thought I would backlight myself. Let's have a look. I look all right, though I say so myself. Cars behind me. Let's get into it. I'm going to show you some stuff. Let's go. So the first tip before you even do anything is to make sure that your camera is balanced properly. We do not want the camera unbalanced. Make sure the gimbal is sorting itself out. If you do have the option to have your handbag, whatever they call it, the grip, get on one of those. My old Zion crane, which I reviewed or disreviewed in a comparison video I did, it's built into it. It's all like full on built into the system. I did actually like that about the Zion, but I've got this one now. This is constantly on it, so make sure you've got 2 points of contact. Now, next thing to do is what you've probably heard of. If you haven't, we call it the ninja walk. Now, I'm going to get back there so you can see me properly, but essentially you're going to go heel toe as you walk, slightly bent, demonstrated like this. As you're going along, you're going to bend your knee and basically do what's called the ninja walk. Hopefully you can see me then, because I can't see the screen here. Making sure, I'll do it again, that you basically keep your legs as like the suspension, and lock everything in with your arms and keep that good to go. So, like this. And the side profile again. Good to go. So once it's balanced, once they're all good to go, I would recommend, when you've got the gimbal, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I would recommend getting a monitor, because what you want to try and do, which we'll move on to next, is making sure you have frames of reference or things of reference within your frame, and with a monitor you obviously can see your subject clearly, and you can also on your monitor, some cameras can do it, but on the screen you can put reference points. If you're shooting like a center point or you're shooting a reel, is what I was going to say, you could have the aspect ratio on there. What we're going to do, I was going to film a couple of shots, different shots with the car. I'll move you slightly and then I will aim to explain what I'm shooting. So on my car, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan all the way around. I'm going to put this Citroen badge in the shot and keep that center of frame, because that's the point of reference that I would like. I'm also, points to note, I'm shooting 4K. This will become apparent in post. I'm shooting 4K because in some of the stabilisation modes you'll need to zoom in a little bit to make sure that everything's locked in and you've got no transparent bits on the background. It will become apparent when we get in the studio. So I'm going to line up the first shot and lock in to the Citroen badge. Let's do that now. I'm at f1.4, so I'm going to put it to f2. That's all good. That flare looks sick. I don't have an ND filter, which is a shame, which means my shooting in log, my ISO has to be not at a decent base, but that's another story. So I'm going to record. What you want to do, get it recording first, and then once everything's stable, you keep your point of reference in the center of the your badge, and then just going to walk around, try not to trip over anything. Nice. And then we're going to do exactly the same, and I'm going to focus on the center cap of my incredibly dirty wheel. Exactly the same. Going to keep center of frame, and then it will become apparent of a tracking reference, for a tracking reference when we get in the edit. For this one, going to go nice and low. Let's get a tracking point of focus. Okay, nice and low. 2 points of contact. I'm going to start from over here and come all the way around. And I know in the edit that that wheel is going to be the point of focus. Stop that there. Whew. Roasting. It's going to pick me back up. Yeah, so what I did was I went from all the way around the front, all the way around, even though I might only want to shoot the part of the frame that was here. It gives you extra options, and also if you wanted to speed ramp in the edit, it gives you, you always got to try and think about the edit, it gives you time either side to chop or start the clip early to then speed it up, or start the clip or give you like room at the end of the edit basically. So always try and overshoot if you can. Next clip, what I would do is, if it was anything significant but it's just for obviously point of reference, I would use the C4 badge to track. What you want in the edit, which I'll explain when I get in post-production in the studio, is you need a bit of contrast for the tracking system to like lock onto. So I'm going to lock onto the Citroen badge. Let's pretend that it was a Ferrari badge or a Porsche badge or GTR badge, because you know, JTM. So I'm going to lock onto that now. So same again, what you're going to do is nice and steady, make sure that the gimbal's rested, and then start the motion. And you've got to try and think, like I said, of the edit first. So the reason why I use this badge for this reason is because it's, like I said, it's a point of reference. So what I would do, or what I should really be showing off, like you've seen in some previous video I did, if you haven't already, it's up here, about long exposure. My Citroen actually has some nice rear lights. but it's quite hard for the car, if you're using autofocus, quite hard for the camera to focus on just the light, for example. So the badge is right next to it, so you'd pick on a badge and as a tracking point in the edit. Like I said, you're always thinking about the edit. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to start from over here, and I'm going to give it an extra bit of room for the edit. And then what you could do, come back in, is to get a tight shot. So halfway through the shot, which I'll show you now, halfway through the shot, you could mix in this little bit to get the details. Now, if you're like me and you have got a terrible car as well, I have a Citroen, it doesn't matter, just get out there. The best thing you can do, when I first started doing photography and videography back in, mainly photography back in 2015, I reckon, 2014 is when I started doing photography, like seriously anyway, photography. I was doing photography in Afghan at like 2000 and, when did I do Afghan? 2006, 2007 when I was in Afghanistan. I was doing photography then, but it wasn't really like that. It's just a niggle that I had in the back of my head for whatever reason. I just was doing lots of random video diaries and taking stills. But anyway, I digress. What I was gonna say, and the reason why I was on about it, is it doesn't matter if you've got a crap car, even if you're using your mum's car. What you need to do is work out, get on the muscle memory, work that muscle memory, work the motions, do little bits and go, I don't like how I don't like how that came out. Why don't I like that? Why don't I like the way that came out? It could be too far away from the car, could be too close to the car. This, for example, is a 24mm, which is pretty wide. Ideally, it'd be nice to have the 50mm. Maybe a 35mm, depends, because obviously cars are quite big. But the reason why I mention that is because just get out and about, practice as much as you can, because that's what I did when I first started out. Just practice. What I did forget to mention is it doesn't matter really. Dare I say it? Gear does matter. I'm not gonna lie, but I was getting gimbal shots on the very first Ronin S when it came out. I had a look before I came out here today. That came out May 2018 is when I first started doing gimbal stuff. So technically I've been practicing since 2018, if you want to call it that. And I had a glide cam before that, so I was trying to do some steady cam stuff until I got the gimbal. And then really the biggest things that's changed from the Ronin S to this brand spanking RS4, which is full carbon fiber. The main things that's changed is you can fit a bigger, heavier camera on there, and the smoothness algorithms have changed, just like the noticeable things. But the way you hold it, obviously I had to do that before instead of this, but the way you hold it, the techniques, the way you walk, practice, that stuff hasn't changed. So if you've got an RS2, if you've got the original Ronin S, don't worry about it, just get out. The best you can do is practice. What I'm going to do now is going to go into my studio. I'm going to probably be wearing something completely different now. Let's get into it. And we are back in the studio. Before we crack on with anything, I'm going to do my usual Easter egg thing, where I put a vehicle beside me from my Hot Wheels collection, and you guys and girls have to basically guess what it is. This is a beauty. This is another new one from, I don't know, my collection that's up there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but yeah, love that one. Also behind me that you can see, Vice City, and we've got an evolution of some Porsches, and then we've got a turbo screwdriver and, what do you call it, spanner. New additions to the background. I'm well happy with them, to be honest. Very happy indeed with them. So yeah, anyway, we're going to talk about obviously the stabilization of the footage and how you stabilize it using a couple of methods. So the first one we're going to do, I've trimmed these clips As you can see here, I'm going to get rid of the get rid of the audio. On here you can see not very stable, although I was fairly slow. Two easy ways you can stabilize this footage. First easy way that you could do it is because I filmed in 50 frames a second. You can just change, so I did Command R, you can change the speed to 50%, and then happy days, you've got slightly more stable footage. So that's one way. Let's Command Z to get rid of that, or undo. And then if you go over to the right hand side, you have got stabilisation, you've got perspective, similarity, translation. I usually just keep it on perspective, but I have had it recently where translation has proved to be better. But you've obviously got the cropping ratio, how much it's going to crop in, enable it to move the frames. You've got the smoothness and you've got the strength. I'm just going to leave them for now. It's completely dependent on what footage. There's no epic recipe. Depends on the footage that you've got, so don't be concerned too much with that, but just test and adjust. But points to note, if you do change any of these, then you have to re-stabilize it. So I'm just going to press stabilize. It's going to go through the motions. Now for your reference, I have got a 2020 MacBook Pro with an M1 chip, and DaVinci seems to run alright on it. So far so good, and this is 4K 50 footage. Just get that bit out of the way. So it's stabilized it now, and you can still see, it struggling. Do you see it went in and out? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to translation, stabilize it again, and then replay it, see what happens. Less jittery, much better. Now proof of concept, so I'm going to put it back to the start. I'm going to change the cropping, change the smoothness, just reduce the strength because I don't want it too crazy, stabilize it again, and see what that does. You still have the up and down motion. Now obviously we're in DaVinci Resolve. In Premiere Pro you have a thing called warp stabilizer, very similar. So if you've got Premiere Pro, then happy days, use warp stabilizer, but just be aware that warp stabilizer does physically warp. If you've got stuff that's very like shallow depth of field, a lot of if you've got something that has a shallow depth of field, the edges will literally warp and wobble and it looks a bit strange. DaVinci does that quite often sometimes, but nowhere near as much as Premiere Pro. But just be aware that obviously they both warp, and be conservative with your settings. Test and adjust, really. Try and get it right in camera. Try and do multiple takes. Don't just assume you've got it in the first take. One thing I've noticed when you're not using a large monitor like I've got up there, when you're just using the camera screen, it's very hard to see all the instability, shall we say, the unstableness, all the micro jitters, and then you get it on a big screen on your laptop and it's all over the place and you're like, what is going on? So far we've just talked about the stabilization in DaVinci and obviously slowing it down by half speed by shooting it 50 frames a second on a 25-second timeline. Obviously if you're in America you would shoot in 60 frames a second and then half speed would be 30 frames a second. So with that out of the way, we're going to move on to the more complicated, obviously because there's more steps, but if you get it right in camera it's not too bad at all. So this clip here, as you can see, like I said, you are going to focus on the wheel. I tried to get but I was talking to you guys and girls, I tried to get the wheel in the center of the frame and then completely completely messed it up. But this is where this next method is absolutely golden. So what we're going to do, and I haven't actually tested it on this particular wheel, so I hope it works. So this will be live, uncensored. So we're going to start in the center, because that's obviously predominantly the main part of the footage, and you could obviously trim the ends off if you wanted to. But we're going to start in the center, and we're going to go to the Fusion tab. Here you're going to press Shift and Spacebar to bring this up. You're going to type plan, and second one down you've got planar tracker. Make sure it's the planar tracker and not the transform. Gonna click that, add, and then grab it and make sure that it's connected to the media in and media out. Once you've clicked that, you're going to go over and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let's go 200%. Why is that not? Oh, I'm on the wrong one, idiot. Let's go 100%. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set to point, set to translation, because perspective for whatever reason goes a bit wild. Going to leave the output and the track channel. So you're going to leave it on track for now. Once you've picked your point, you've got a little red bar here. This is your your reference point, your starting reference point. Now you're going to press set for the reference time so that it knows when and where it wants to track from, and you're going to draw around the wheel. It doesn't have to be very neat. All you're doing is picking a reference for the tracker. As you can see, there's a bit of contrast between my horrendously dirty wheels and the tyre. You could use the centre locks, but I'm going to give it a bit more of leeway for this. Going to be a bit more friendly with the tracker today. So tracked, we've set for go, and now you're going to track all the way to the end. I'm going to get back out here at the moment to do fit. Going to track all the way to the end. Remember, we started in the middle, and as you can see, it's picking loads and loads and loads of tracker points. And like I said, I've got the 2020 MacBook, so does all right. Seems to do all right. Now, if at all it goes a bit wild, has some dramas, you might have to stop, and you can manually do it frame by frame. Obviously frame by frame will take forever. So once it's got all the way to the end, which it will do in a second, obviously going to do this real time. Once it goes all to the end, you'll see halfway it's going to populate. It's going to populate all of these tracking points. And obviously, we've still got to go all the way to the other end. So I'm going to just go here and go all the way to the other side. Now, obviously, it's going to have a hard time perceiving what the actual ring was, because although it's in 2D on the tracker, obviously it's referencing 3D. So as you can see, it's taken the tyre as some reference points. But what we're going to do is I'm going to speed this up now, and I'll meet you back when it's tracked everything. And there we are. As you can see, it's done all of these reference points. That's literally, it's taken a reference point and a keyframe for every single frame. And it's done pretty good job, I'd say. Pretty good job. I don't know why it's moving around whilst I go backwards and forwards, but I would say it's I was watching it, it's done a very good job. Anyway, once it's done all of that, we're going to click it to steady, And as you can see, we've got black bars here. So if I press play, it stabilised it. Stabilised it very well. But you can see that these are moving around. So what you need to do is you need to go, as we go on the other side, you can see that it's done it all on the side here. So we're going to try and find the largest point in which, obviously the biggest gap. So let's stop it there. I'd say that's a pretty big gap, or you could say that's probably the biggest gap because it's like 4.5 squares maybe. Anyway, we're going to do shift spacebar and type in transform. I've got that one underneath. Double click. Get rid of that. Make sure it's connected, and then you're going to zoom in until you can't see anything. And then just check all the way through here to make sure that both sides, you're not going to have, what do you call it, any any of the frame in there. You shouldn't do. It did go out of focus, I've just noticed that though. It's focused on the back wheel. That could have been a nice transition though if you had some nice wheels there, but there we go. But let's play that now. That is crazy stable. So happy with that. So there was a little jitter. Where was it? There, I think it must have been there. If I play that, it moved a little bit. Obviously for demonstration purposes I'm just going to leave it, but if this was a film that I was making, I would just go back through and do the whole process again to try and stabilise it. You could obviously slow the footage down and you wouldn't see it as much. Or what you could do with this sort of footage is you could speed ramp it, so you could speed it up, and then when it gets to there, slow it down and speed out of it. So let's just do that. Let's just do that really quickly, shall we? As a proof of concept. So let's say I would like it to be there and, pardon me, there. Let's do this really fast, just so that you can see. Let's go change it to 800 so they're both equal. In and out. How fast? Let's go double that. Let's go. Hang on a minute. Custom should be able to do custom. Let's just change it here. $14.50. Let's do that. 1460. That'll do. Cool. And we're going to change this to 50%. And then what we're going to do now is let's bring that up a little bit. Bring these keyframes down. Come on. Well, let me do it. There we go. Just going to smooth it out. Not going to adjust them too much. But if we play that now, you get the concept. Hope you enjoyed this one. Nice and easy, not too shabby, pretty basic. A lot of people might be a bit intimidated with Fusion. I know I am most of the time, but as far as stabilizing goes and having a good techniques to to make your footage look that little bit extra. It's all good. It's all good. We're all here to learn, and I'm learning all the time myself. And if you did find this helpful, then just comment below. It would be great to get some feedback. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. And below also I have a free exposure guide. If you haven't picked that up yet, don't worry, you don't have to pay anything. There's no catches whatsoever. It's just a free PDF so that you can nail your exposure with photography and videography. But yeah, have a little look down below, and then also there should be a Dehancer film emulation code to get 10% off. That'd be mega. But that's pretty much it, guys and girls. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you in the next one.